ag radio to work for your brand.
At SIU Center for Family Medicine in Lincoln, our team makes it easy to get your flu shot and protect the people you care about most. Book your appointment now by clicking the SIU Family Medicine icon at DeWittDailyNews.com.
DeWittDailyNews.com is the area's leading local news source 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Get the latest local news, obituaries, police splatter, weather forecast, and more with no paywall. Head to DeWittDailyNews.com to get the local information you need to know.
From the Hart Media Group newsroom and DeWittDailyNews.com, I'm Ben Hubbard with this expanded morning newscast. Good morning and thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Ben Hubbard. The news is brought to you by Baum Chevy Buick in Clinton, your Silverado headquarters, as well as Connexus, offering fiber internet in Clinton. Click their icon on DeWittDailyNews.com to find out more. The gardening season is coming to a close, but there are ways for you to enjoy your harvest all winter long. Caitlin Mellendorf, nutrition educator with the University of Illinois Extension in DeWitt, Macon, and Piatt counties, explains that our typical food preservation methods of canning, freezing, drying, and fermenting are all great ways to save your fresh-grown produce throughout the winter and lower your food waste.
Yeah, so our food preservation resources, so canning, freezing, drying, and fermentation, are all ways to take those garden foods or your farmer's market foods or your grocery foods and save them for longer sorts. This is actually another great food waste topic. So for canning, I'm going to send everybody to our food preservation page. So go.illinois.edu/food. We'll have links to all of the different food resources. One of them is food preservation. So canning is a great way to put foods in jars, heat them in whether it's a water bath or a pressure canner, depending on the type of food you're canning. And I'll have a shelf-stable product that is good. We recommend for up to a year at room temperature. And then you have gotten to use all of those fresh garden veggies that we're finishing up for the year. So this time of year, we might be getting like maybe the last bits of the peppers and maybe some like winter squash or maybe popping in. So it's a great way to preserve foods. I know for my colleague, she just told me she's working on a class around sauerkraut. So it's another great way. Cabbage is a fall crop. So for anyone that's growing cabbage right now that's coming into season, sauerkraut's a great way to ferment those foods, and you get those beneficial bacteria and you get the nice crisp saltiness that is sauerkraut.
Mellendorf notes that you can have your pressure canner tested at the extension office for free. Doing this will ensure that the food you are canning will be preserved safely and correctly.
So a great resource for this time of year, as maybe you're finishing up canning for the season, you're packing things in storage, you can come get your canner lid tested. So for pressure canners, the dial gauge type canner lids are ones that we test for free. So that's takes about 10-15 minutes for me to test that. It's a free test, and you get just an update on your gauge and making sure that's still reading correctly. Because we want to really make sure, especially when we're pressure canning, that our information that we're getting is reading correctly and so that we're canning properly. So our website is go.illinois.edu/food. And then on the top tab was food preservation. We even have free downloads. We've got recorded webinars from past trainings on YouTube if people want to go watch those instead. So we are looking at some of those cold weather crops. So broccoli and cauliflower and cabbage, a lot of those cruciferous vegetables are in season right now. And then a lot of things that we can grow in the springtime. So we tend to think of like lettuces and radishes are also coming kind of back into season because it's colder weather. And then winter squash is definitely popping in. I think there's so many varieties of winter squash. So I'm looking forward to myself. I'm, at least a couple times in the winter, I'll make a butternut squash soup with carrots. And it's just a nice, cozy meal.
Learn more about preserving your fall foods as well as recipes you can make with vegetables that are coming into season at go.illinois.edu/food. Coming up shortly on this expanded newscast, Encore Developmental Services gets deadline in ongoing facility saga. A local school district has seen a growing issue with food insecurity among its students, but thanks to a $45,000 grant from ADM Cares, they are working to change that. Cheryl Warner, superintendent of Warrensburg-Latham Schools, indicates her two major obstacles are a decreasing amount of grant funding and food insecurity in students. She says that almost half of the students in her district qualify for the free and reduced lunch program.
One thing I'd like to share is I have two obstacles in my district currently, right? That are, these are the things you lose sleep over as a leader in education. We have declining grant funds coming into the district. We're all facing what we would consider some tumultuous financial times in school districts. We're going to see this fiscal cliff that's being talked about at the state level. And then along with that, Warrensburg-Latham is seeing a significant increase in the free and reduced rate that our families are being eligible for. So, and this is, I'm going to share 24-25 data. At the end of the year in June, our total free and reduced population was at 48.7 for the district. So we're close to 50%, which is a significant change in the last 5 years. We were seeing that at the elementary level. Now that population is moving on into middle school and high school. So we're seeing it impact the district across the board. And as we've talked about before, Seth, we're also seeing an increase in enrollment.
Warner says if a student is hungry or doesn't feel safe in their environment, then their mind is not focused on learning. She is hopeful the grant will help relieve the stressors that create major learning obstacles for her students.
We know that if students are hungry, if they don't feel safe, if they don't feel secure in their environment, then the obstacles for them to learn are so much greater. So we work very hard as a district to try to remove those obstacles. We have spent the last several years with such an emphasis on SEL, especially at that high school level, and able to change the climate and culture and making sure that our students feel safe and secure and reporting incidents to the point where we've formally trained them in teen mental health first aid. We have formal mentoring programs. Many of these are programs that we've talked about on your show in the past. So we've spent so much time working on that general wellness piece. And the food security, because dollars are tied to it, is that harder piece, right? When you start to see dollars go away in your categoricals and other places. So yes, this is kind of completes the puzzle where we can continue to relieve some of the things that might be happening that families are dealing with on a regular basis, to remove some of the obstacles so that our students can be focused and ready to learn when they're at school, and we can support their families as much as possible.
Distressed or struggling students can also be difficult for staff. Warner explains educators are already forced to stretch out their budget to make ends meet in their classroom, and some even pay for supplies out of their own pockets. She does not want teachers to be forced to address issues of food insecurity over educating the children.
The supplement of this grant, which allows us to focus on this food stability piece of our most at-risk students, not only those that are dealing with economic issues, but also those that are enrolled in our pre-K program. It takes the stress off of some of the administration and the teachers and staff that work strongly in that program, because I will tell you, as we see grant dollars at the federal and state level decrease, those staff have had to become very creative with how they service, right? And I don't ever want them to have to make a decision where they are putting instruction on the wayside because they're concerned about making sure that there's enough dollars for food security. So again, this ADM Cares grant really takes away that obstacle so that they don't even have to manage or think about that. I can take care of all of that behind the scenes, and they can focus purely on the best instructional model for our pre-K students and our students that are struggling academically. That's just not a concern that I want them to have to work through. They have enough on their plates with educating our children every day.
School Board President Tori Williams was very involved in securing the grant for the district through her professional position with ADM. Learn more about Warrensburg-Latham schools by visiting wl.k12.il.us or by finding them on Facebook. You're listening to the WHOW Morning Show. let's take a quick break with a word from our sponsors.
Experience the power of better connection with Connexus Fiber Internet. Connexus delivers ultra-fast, reliable speeds to keep you connected at the speed of life. Whether you're working from home, streaming your favorite shows, or gaming with your friends, Connexus has you covered. Say goodbye to buffering and dropped calls and say hello to fiber fast internet. Ready to upgrade your connection? Sign up today by clicking the Connexus icon at DeWittDailyNews.com. Nothing connects us like Connexus.
Closeout time is here for a new Chevrolet. This is Scott Baum from Baum Chevrolet Buick in Clinton and Farmer City. Yes, we have a good selection of 25 Silverados remaining in regular and crew cab models with gas or diesel engines. Some with utility beds and dual roof wheels. Also see our remaining Colorados, Trail Blazers, even our full-size Suburban and Tahoes, all priced to move out. See our 25 inventory today at BaumChevyBuick.com, right from the start.
News time is 20 minutes after the top of the hour. You're listening to the WHOW Morning Show. May of 2027 is the deadline for Encore Developmental Services to have its warehouse renovated and up to code for the State Fire Marshal's office. On the WHOW Morning Show Wednesday, Executive Director of Encore in DeWitt County, Stephanie Kuntz, told the Hart Media Group that they've been given until the spring of 27 to get the warehouse up to code.
It will probably be by the time, $1 million just for these walls and what will come with them. That doesn't include like roof or anything like that. That is also needed. But yes, now the DHS changed their deadline. You used to be able to just work on these things. They give every 6 months you get an extension. But now they said starting in this fiscal year that you only had 3 extensions, which are 6 months. So we have 18 months from when mine is, it's due in November. So I should be getting my next 6-month extension now and this month, and then I will have 3 more. So we have until about May of 27 to complete all of these mitigations.
Kuntz reminds that it was about 3 years ago a state fire marshal's inspection brought forth several violations of health and safety, particularly in the warehouse, and the agency has been scrambling since to bring the facility up to code.
Was started 3+ years ago with the fire marshal inspection, which it grew and brought a whole lot of fire marshals into our building. And they didn't like our old cattle auction house because it had been, grandfathered in, or there wasn't. So then they came in and came back with a list of things for us to do. And we then had to hire an architect, got them involved. The fire marshal got them to agree on a plan to build these firewalls, 2 firewalls, and a lot more exits and lighting into the warehouse, and a new alarm system also. That was the first thing that we accomplished back in 23, maybe? 23.
Yeah.
Took a long time to get that plan in place. So it's in place. Fundraising, trying to find a contractor, found a contractor this last summer, and started the construction here in September.
According to Kuntz, Encore has begun its latest phase of renovations in the warehouse, with a whole new project now needed that is going to double the projected cost.
We are actually building the first phase of the firewalls that have to go into the warehouse. There are 2 firewalls that have to go into the warehouse from our fire marshal things back in the back. We talked about that before. So the first firewall at the back that will separate basically all the mechanicals, all of the lawn maintenance equipment. That big old baler that used to sit in the front of the warehouse moved back. That was quite a thing. Moving that back to the very back behind what's going to be the firewall. So that's all started, and it's very exciting because of the necessity of putting in that other firewall that doubled the budget for the back phase. So that eats into the front firewall that has to be put in at the front of the warehouse. So that took away that funding. So it's about $500,000 for what we're working on now, which takes us down to, just some emergency funds that I have, stashed away.
Kuntz is closely watching the situation in Washington, D.C., because nearly 80% of their revenue is federally funded with a state of Illinois match through Medicaid. Learn about all things Encore Developmental Services by following them on Facebook. Now that Halloween has passed, many of us will be looking for seasonal employment heading towards Thanksgiving and Christmas. The Better Business Bureau says the time to get in your application is now, but be careful of job offers that may seem too good to be true. As a seasonal employee, you can expect to work long, sometimes inconvenient hours, possibly including Thanksgiving and Christmas Eve. BBB investigator Don O'Brien says you should be wary of job offers that don't require an interview.
Even during peak hiring season, reputable companies are going to talk to job candidates before they hire them. And if you get a job offer without an interview, either on phone or in person, or if it's offered only via the internet, question the company's hiring practices and doing a little bit more digging.
He says be wary of big money offers for small jobs, as this is likely just an attempt to steal your personal information and can cause trouble for you for a long time. And never work for a company before you are hired. This is mostly a precaution for online jobs. Illinois is accustomed to wild November weather swings and will get one over the next week. Temperatures in some parts of Illinois approached 70 on Tuesday. By next Monday morning, overnight lows could dip into the upper teens in certain areas of the state, says DTN ag meteorologist John Baranek.
We're going to pull down some pretty cold air from northern Canada for at least a few days. That's obviously going to lead to some lake effect snow over the Great Lakes. I don't think that the wind direction will be good enough to get into Illinois. It should stay into Indiana off of Lake Michigan. But it's definitely going to bring in some colder air. So we're talking about widespread low temperatures. Maybe Sunday morning in the 20s, maybe far southern Illinois is still in the 30s on Sunday morning. But for Monday and Tuesday morning, it does look like widespread 20s. And we could even see some teens in there if the winds calm down a little bit, either Monday morning, but more likely Tuesday morning with that one. But it's going to be just a brief shot of cold air, but it will be significant.
Even with this small window of cold air this weekend into early next week, he still anticipates the month of November to finish warmer than normal. The Illinois Department of Transportation and Illinois Department of Natural Resources are reminding the public to be alert for deer as we enter peak mating season, with their movements and the chances for collisions both increasing, particularly at dawn and dusk through December, says IDOT's Paul Wappel.
Yes, because deer mating season really is here, and that means that deer become more active, especially at dawn and dusk, pretty much now through December. A collision with a deer can happen at any time, but we are approaching the time when the most crashes with them occur. So keep in mind that deer often travel in groups. So if a deer crosses the road ahead of you, there's a good possibility, a good chance that another one's going to follow. So always be prepared for the unexpected. And a deer, of course, might stop in the middle of the road or double back. Try to resist the urge to swerve. And what do we mean? Don't veer for deer, because it could cause you to lose control of your vehicle and swerve into another lane or off the road. So if a collision with a deer is inevitable, try to glance your vehicle off the deer and avoid swerving into the opposite lanes of traffic. And by glance your vehicle, we mean to hit something at an angle if possible, not directly. If you do hit a deer, pull off to the shoulder, turn on your hazard lights, and call 911 to report the accident. Do not, this is important, do not exit the vehicle to check on an injured deer or pull it from the road.
In 2024, there were 14,436 crashes involving deer in Illinois. Of those, 13,733 resulted in damage to property or vehicles, while 698 caused injuries and 5 resulted in fatalities. Now for your local obituaries. Patricia Ann Wolf, 73, of Chillicothe, Illinois, passed away at 3:32 p.m. October 30th at the Ark at Chillicothe. Graveside services will be 10 a.m. Thursday, November 6th at Mausoleum Park Cemetery in Clinton, with Adam Brucker officiating. The family has entrusted Calvert Funeral Home in Clinton with arrangements. Memorials may be directed to St. Jude's Children's Hospital. Philip W. White, 70, of Clinton, passed away at 9:43 p.m. October 28th at his family residence in Clinton. No services are planned at this time. The family entrusted Calvert Funeral Home in Clinton with cremation rights. Online condolences may be made at calvertmemorial.com. Get news anytime from your computer or your mobile device at DeWitt County's #1 source for news, sports, police blotter, obituaries, and more. It's DeWittDailyNews.com.
With SRN News, I'm Rich Thomason in Washington. Concerned about the safety of the skies as the government shutdown drags on, the FAA is about to make some changes, could impact your air travel plans. It's cutting the number of flights by 10% at the major airports, and that starts tomorrow. Deadline fast approaching for prosecutors to produce evidence relating to their criminal case against former FBI Director James Comey. The deadline is by the end of the business day today. Air safety investigators have recovered a potentially valuable piece of evidence as they search for answers in this week's fiery crash of a UPS cargo plane at the airport in Louisville, Kentucky. They've recovered the aircraft's flight data recorder. Tesla shareholders to vote today on a pay package could make Elon Musk the world's first trillionaire. Dow futures up 33 points, and NASDAQ futures 47 points higher. More details at srnnews.com.
From the Hart Media Group Sports Desk, IL Sports Wire, and DeWittDailyNews.com, I'm Ben Hubbard with this sports report. Tyler Bertuzzi scored 3 goals in the third period for his 4th career hat trick, and the Chicago Blackhawks beat the Vancouver Canucks 5-2 on Wednesday night. Ilya Mikheyev